Hey folks, it's Yannick Gwizdala. It's the Yannick Gwizdala podcast. A little bit of a palate cleanser up front for a change there. So much to get into. And where do we start? I guess we start with the most pressing and time sensitive thing is that here on May 20th, 21st, whenever this is going out, we're getting very close to the Bass Bash in London with myself and Ian Martin Allison. 10:30 a.m. Sunday, June 1st. I hear you say it's an early-ish start for musicians, but that's when it's happening. It's at the Vortex Jazz Club in London. If you don't have a ticket yet, now's the time to get one. I think there are maybe 12 or 13 left. It's going to be a nice packed room. Really psyched to go to London and talk about music with Ian and talk about bass and everything that we've done in our careers and answer all your questions. Really quite excited for that. And that comes from, I guess, a lot of realization over the past weeks of how perhaps, I've mentioned this a little bit before, how different Ian and I are, for instance, how different we all are in general, but because me and Ian are going to be sitting on a stage together and discussing, why not highlight that? You know, we've had very different careers, and I kind of suspect we have very different approaches. For some things I've talked to Ian in great depth about, and I know we do, but other things I think we're going to peel back some layers, peel back the onion and get in there and investigate and find out that we have so many things, perhaps that are in common in terms of the way we are, I don't know, out there in the world playing bass, playing music, but perhaps how incredibly different each of our approaches are to handling those things. So I think that's, aside from the music and talking about harmony and chords and basically all the stuff I just played at the beginning of the episode, aside from all of that music stuff, which we tend to do every time at clinics, I'm perhaps most excited and interested in the human side of being a musician and discussing that kind of live and in the moment with someone on a high level, someone who I respect and someone I know to have very different views and preparation methods and approaches to a lot of sort of similar things. So that's going to be really interesting. Like I said, links for the tickets are below. There are only a few left as of today, and that's in 10 days, 11 days exactly. So I'm pretty psyched about that. Also, Thomann Music out there near Nuremberg in Germany. Ian and I will be there the day before the London show doing a clinic. If any of you are in that neighborhood, I believe entry is free, but you do have to register. I'll leave a link down below. That's going to be quite the Line 6 centric, specifically the HX Stomp kind of centric clinic. But I'm sure we'll go in a ton of different places from there. We're going to take a look at what I'm doing to prepare right now, actually, not just for the clinics, but for the fact that I got a recording session, actually I have a couple of recording sessions coming up while I'm in Europe. I'm actually recording, how should I say this? I don't know if he wants me to tell people we're doing it. So I've already given away that it's a guy, musician, fellow musician, great musician, and someone with quite a large online presence, shall we say, quite a large YouTube channel. I think YouTube is maybe the main focus, although I don't have any of the other platforms, so I don't see any of the other side of people's lives. If people are on YouTube, I generally see them. Anywhere else, I have no idea. This person might have 90 million followers on TikTok or something, and I have no idea about it. Anyway, sizable YouTube channel, has put out a bunch of great music in the past, and I'm going to go and record a couple of songs with this person. I'll leave it kind of cryptic like that. Maybe you can guess. It's somewhere in Europe. You've got a couple of clues, but maybe get in the comments below and see if you can guess who it is. Maybe by the next episode, I'll give some more hints. But that's going to be fun. That's one of my days in Europe. And then I'm doing something for myself, something I've wanted to do for so long, something that's really important to me musically and personally, because this person is someone I met, I think in my first week of living in the US back in 1998, somebody I consider to be a huge influence and a huge inspiration on what I do as a musician and specifically as a bass player. And that's stretching the the concept of the bass pretty far. That's using the term bass player fairly loosely because we both do things that would be considered pretty much fireable offenses from most sort of conventional gigs. But we like to explore the instruments. I believe he's playing like 6 strings, all kinds of different stringing in his basses, 5s and 6s and 7s, even some extended range things. So that's an Italian bass player called Daniele Camarda, who I'm very excited to be going into the studio with for a day out in Spain while I'm in Europe. And we're gonna cut a new record. It's going to be a duo record. It will come out later in the year, probably in the fall. Once we get it tracked and kind of edited and mixed and mastered, it'll be a few months, but we're doing that in Barcelona. Very, very excited about that. And that kind of what I was playing up front and what I'm going to work on here in a minute for you with this harmony workout is kind of helping me prepare the ears, helping me prepare the foundation for that. I don't want to go into the recording session. I don't want to go in really with too many preconceived ideas, but I do want to go in with this like nice foundation of confidence. I guess that's always what I'm trying to do with these things, with these ideas, with these exercises, with all the books, with all the stuff, specifically the harmony workout, which we're going to take a look at today. I released that last month. It's the Harmony Workout Volume 1. There's a link to it below in the description. It's also in the little product store icon right underneath the video. It's called the Harmony Workout Volume 1. It's 31 play-alongs with a PDF of a ton of chord changes. We're going to get into some of those right now. Picked out some 2/5s. And it's working on the interval of minor thirds and of major thirds. So I've got all these different chord qualities that move in the interval of minor thirds and major thirds. And in some cases, it's not just a single chord that moves, it's a 2/5 and something that helps just loosen up the flexibility a little bit. I wonder if I actually have one. This was not planned, by the way, but because I wrote a book on 2/5-1s and jazz vocabulary in general, which centers around the 2/5-1 in the case of this book. You can get signed copies, by the way, like this one. Everything's available below, ebooks. I'm actually going to grab probably a couple of different licks out of this, a couple of different 2-bar licks, and use them to get my ear in. I want to take the guesswork out of the line and focus in really deeply on the interval, where I'm moving that on the neck. Let me play a little bit of this. Let's go in minor thirds first. 2/5s in minor thirds. Let me pull up the PDF so I know I've got the right key. Where are we? 2/5s in minor thirds. There are 3 of them. There we go. And it's 4 key centers. So we go G minor 7 to C7, B flat minor 7, or 9 right there, to E flat 7, or E flat 13, C sharp minor 7 to F7, F sharp 7. See, I hate that. Sorry, I gotta apologize for this. This happens in my videos a lot. I'll say C sharp minor 7 going to F7. I'll miss out the sharp or the flat sometimes. That really bothers me when I'm listening back in the edit. And the big camera, Kakad in the bed. Okay, well, how are we going to get this back online? All right, we're just going to go like that. Luckily, I've got 2 cameras, so you probably have been seeing something a little different for the last few seconds. But yeah, like I was saying, sometimes I miss out the sharp or the flat. That's kind of my dyslexia kicking in. So I apologize for all the previous infringements of that rule and all the future ones, because I'm sure it will happen again as it happened just then. Like I said, C minor, in this case C minor 9, going to F sharp, the 2/5, F sharp 7, in this case kind of an F sharp sus 13, and then E minor 7 going to A7. That's a kind of a basic voicing. Like that one. So basically 4 key centers. The actual key centers are F, A flat, B, and D. So the actual destination of those 2/5-1s. But because we're only dealing with the 2 and the 5, we never actually get to the 1. I'll play it to you and show you what that sounds like. Maybe I'll actually open this in iTunes. As much as I hate this platform, let's play this. So I haven't yet grabbed a specific one from my book. I'm just kind of outlining the chords as I hear them, as I kind of already know, as is natural to my vocabulary. But if you're just starting out with this, if you need an idea to get going, there are obviously tons in here. I also recommend that you just listen to great jazz musicians. Transcribe a simple 2-5-1 sound from Cannonball Adderley, from Sonny Stitt, from Dexter Gordon, from Art Pepper, from Hank Mobley. There is an endless list of masters of this music that you could just go grab that idea. That's exactly where I got all these from. I mean, these are sort of approximations and assimilations and my version of that sound, but they all came out of those musicians and many more that I just mentioned. That's the actual process. This book or this harmony, workout, for instance, are maybe the thing that gives you the initial discipline or the initial inspiration or the motivation to work on this stuff. But the real work comes when you use your ears, when you listen, when you assimilate this vocabulary by ear. That's the most important part of it all when it comes to learning, when it comes to putting this stuff, making it a part of your own improvising language. And if we go, let's go here and let's stick with let's actually come up with a new one. We'll get to one of the ones from the book in a second, just for some discipline. But I'm also I have no fear about just trying something new and trying something, kind of simple that just outlines the harmony. And in fact, that's really just outlining the two. If we have G minor 7 to C7 or C sus13 there, that really is very much the two. Unless you get that, really get that 13 sound over the 5 chord. Now the question is, can we move that in minor thirds? To B flat, which is our next 2, to C sharp, which is our next 2, to E, which is our next 2. And let's try that with the backing track. And then I was trying to see if I could move to a 2-5 idea. That one is in the 2-5 book. I was like, okay, how can I switch from one to the other? I've played something new. I've played that several times, so I'm giving myself, forcing myself into some discipline there. Can I repeat that over and over again? Can I stick with the idea? And then how aware am I? How loose am I? How relaxed, how confident am I to just go to something completely different? Just tap into another part of vocabulary and change the idea, change the direction. So sometimes that is, one of the challenges I'll set myself. How fluently can I move from one idea to the other? Now, I had that idea, which I played through all 4 key centers. But why not move, each key center switch back and forth, for instance? So, it's maybe not something I would play live. That's not how I would naturally develop an idea. This is more about the repetition of putting those sounds into my playing. It's 0 mistakes. It's 100% focus. It is completely structured and dialed in to achieve a specific goal. Whereas live, although it is focused and I'm 100% dialed in, the goal that I want to achieve is so much broader and so less specific. I don't go on a gig thinking like, I have to play this lick. If I don't play this lick, this gig was a failure. No, not at all. I go on the gig thinking I want to play as open and as free as possible. Actually, I want to get away from licks completely. I don't want to think about harmony or melody or chords or anything like that. I just want to go on stage and play free. And it's the hundreds and thousands of hours that I do on these small details with no mistakes. Hopefully, once you get it under your fingers and you repeat it over and over again, you don't want to be repeating mistakes. Although I talk about mistakes being fantastic because they're the best teacher. You're always learning something when you find a mistake. Try not to repeat that mistake over and over again. The idea is to find the mistake, figure out what it is, find the exercise that works through that technique, and find the exercise that works through that mistake and kind of solves that problem, and then drill the solution. Don't drill the mistake, but drill the solution. And of course, for me at least, my whole process is trying to find the solution as fast as possible so I can get to the real work of drilling that solution over and over and over again. And that's why I'm where I am today. And that's why I'm able to do the kinds of things you hear me do as a bass player, as a musician, as an improviser. But I will be, we should have like total transparency and honesty here. I have to be the first to admit that changes on almost a daily basis. My level of confidence with that goes up and down, just like yours. Sometimes, admittedly, I have perhaps a good enough foundation so that my bad days aren't horrific. Perhaps to the outside ear, to somebody listening to it, they're like, man, I wish my mistakes sounded that good. I think that about so many people that I listen to who are great. That's why I say it. But trust me, internally, when I feel like I'm having a bad day, it is disastrous, absolute catastrophe level, end of the world, like jump off the roof type of thing. Like that is definitely going through my head on a pretty regular basis, to the point now where I'm in control of it enough to where I know that can change, and I know I have these things that I can put in place to help that change very quickly and help build that confidence back into my playing. But it's really like a daily thing. It's not like, oh, once every few months this happens and I do a little adjustment and I'm okay again. It's really about the small details, the daily details that help me be so much more consistent in what I do. Both as a bass player, in fact, there are more than two things. As a bass player, as a composer, as an arranger, as a producer, as an artist as well, kind of combining all of those things together. That daily detail inventory really, really helps with that process. Okay, talking way too much. Need to play way more. Let's go back to our 4 key centers here, and let's make an example of switching between the new idea and the idea that is in Jazz Vocabulary for Electric Bass 251, something I've been playing for many, many years. And it's just to explain it quickly. It's if you take on a 2, G minor, just outlining the chord tones, flat 7, 5, minor third, 1. And then I'm playing basically altered when we get to the 5. So 2, and then 5 on C. That's the idea. That's just to break it down for you in case you were wondering what those notes are and where they're coming from. Now we're going to take the original idea and then that idea and alternate each time the key center changes. And then, of course, a great extension of that is to play the opposite of that. So we take the older lick, and then we play the newer idea, alternating like that. Let's try that. That's really about the ear. I realized when I made the mistake that I was thinking about it too much and I should just trust my ear. I know the harmony is moving an interval of a minor third. I can feel that. I can hear that. I know where all of the chord tones of that new destination are under my fingers. I don't have to think about that at all. And as soon as I started thinking about it, it basically erased the years of work I'd done on it and put this roadblock in the way. Just like, oh no, this road is closed. You've got to go over here. You've got to take this detour to get to the destination. And this is just a great example of thinking being kind of your enemy and getting in the way. It's always been the case. The more I always think about it as links in the chain. So if you're really, I only want two links. I want the link in the chain, the number one link here, which is the idea. That's the musical idea. That's the thing that happens in the brain. That's the line. That's the vocabulary. That's the expression. And then I want the second link to be the performance, the thing that the audience hears. Now, if those two things are tight, if there are no links in between them, then you have the musical idea and you express it to the audience really quickly, very much in real time and very honestly. Now, the more links you start putting in between, if you've got to think about chords and you've got to think about harmony and you've got to think about chord tones and does that melody work with that thing? What is the line again? And by the time you've added like 4 or 5 links to that chain, these two original groundbreaking, earth-shattering, musical links are so far apart that there's this massive disconnect. The performance doesn't end up being honest. And it's this process that we're going through right here, this simple harmony workout of moving in minor thirds and taking simple ideas and repeating them. It's that process that takes out all of those links, all of those moments of thought in the middle. You do not have to think about what a chord is, how a chord is made. It's useful to know that stuff. And of course, books like this and by many other authors out there teach you how to understand harmony from a theoretical standpoint. But that does you absolutely no good in terms of honest performance when you're improvising, when you go out to play live. It actually does you a lot of harm to carry that information with you. An analogy is sort of sprung to mind. It's like say you want really powerful legs and powerful arms. Like you want to be able to lift things and be strong. Maybe your job requires it. Maybe you work at a brewery and you're carrying huge barrels of beer and you're loading them on and off a truck. You need really strong legs and you need like really strong grip and strong arms, just a strong core. Like you need all that. But when you're doing that, perhaps you work out and you kind of sculpt your body and give your body the tools to do that job. Maybe you're an athlete. Maybe you have to run 100 meters really, really fast. You don't see Usain Bolt on the 100-meter sprint in the Olympics, or the person working at the brewery humping the kegs onto the truck. You don't see them carrying all their gym equipment with them. That has just sprung to mind. We're going to see how well that holds up. But the analogy being, they do all that work in the gym with all that equipment and the weights and the this and the that and the grip and the pull-up bars and all of that stuff in order not to have to think about that stuff or have to maintain it in the moment that it's required that they use it. In that moment of the 100-meter dash, in that moment of lifting the keg onto the truck. It is no different right here. This is the gymnasium right here. This is sculpting the muscles that you need in order to pull off all of these ideas. And you shouldn't be taking all of that baggage with you when you go out on the stage and truly improvise and express yourself as a musician. So let's get back to it. What was I doing? I was doing the older sort of beboppy lick and then the newer lick that really outlines the two. And now I was thinking too much at the end there. Like, I was already thinking about how I was going to explain what was going on, hence it sort of collapsing a little bit towards the end. But I kind of wanted to make the example of transitioning from the exercise more to the flowing idea development sort of lane, because it's one thing to practice small chunks and to practice small phrases and drill those things over and over and over and over again, but then you want to start to build up that storytelling ability, that ability to link smaller pieces together, to tell a bigger story, to have a larger phrase, to make a more impactful statement. And then, of course, the ability to move that anywhere on the instrument, to be able to transpose that rhythmically, to be able to develop it rhythmically. That was kind of what I was getting to when I strayed away from our original exercise. And also very important, we do on this channel spend a lot of time up what I like to call the dusty end of the neck. It's really important to use these exercises for being a bass player, for actually doing the thing that we are so known for. Let's see what we've got here. We'll take another chord quality. I quite like these ones. Major chords with the natural 4 in them. So you have the 3 and the natural major third and the natural 4 in the same chord. I like that sound. And I've got them moving in minor thirds. I'm going to take the second one for anyone who's playing along at home, which starts, I believe, in G flat. Let's see if that is correct. Yeah. Okay, so I'm just feeling it out here. We've got our 4 chords. We've got G. Yeah, that's a tough one to play there. So we've got G, we've got A, we've got C, and we've got E flat. So major chords moving in the interval of a minor third. So I've got it dialed into the root motion. Okay, great. Got some octaves. And I'm kind of going to explore connecting notes, what notes are side by side in order to weave from one chord change to another to make it a little smoother. Probably going to be thinking about simplicity and repetition as a bass player while I develop a line, develop an idea. And let's see how we go from there. I hadn't planned this at all. This is totally off the cuff. I'm just picking one at random and kind of showing you how I get into it and use it as a practice tool. I use this one kind of a lot. I'll drill this for like 15 or 20 minutes. It's so satisfying and really sort of bumps my playing up a notch, gets me into a very kind of warm and relaxed and loose space to go practice a ton of other stuff that may not be related to this at all. So really kind of an important part of my routine. one thing I'm noticing is I don't like my time with that idea. I don't have the ability to just stop the podcast and go back and listen to that and analyze it. But I'm sure if you did, the time isn't that happening with that idea. 2, 3, 4. Bodum, 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 bodum. It didn't feel great. And it should feel great. That's like my only job. That's our only job, is to make it feel and sound great. So that's fantastic that I've identified something that is a real weakness there. Like that's talk about the roller coaster, that are the ebbs and flows of confidence that I was talking about earlier on. Here we have very much a valley in terms of that graph. So let's go in. Let's try and take that idea, these offbeats, and let's try and make them feel a lot better. We might not get to good today, but I think we can get to a lot better than whatever that was. I tried a reharm there, which totally didn't work. Why did that not work? Are we not because we have a B natural in there. That's why it didn't work at all. So I would have to go on, or maybe like that, but with a B natural. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself into nerdy harmony land. The point being, I think that felt a little bit better. I was dialed into, and this is very important for groove playing, I was dialed into the bigger beat. I talked to a very old friend of mine for the first time in a while last week, a great piano player called Andy Milne, whose band I played in. His band is Dap Theory, and I played in that band for a hot minute, over 20 years ago now. Maybe 22, 23 years ago, long time. I should never have been in a band. I really shouldn't. And Andy was super hard on me, for good reason. For really good reason. It's tough music. It'd be a great video to make. It's a very involved one because the book of music is so complex, and I'd have to go back and really dive back into the process. But the one thing that after getting fired, one of the only times I've ever been fired in my life, and I'm glad it was by Andy, because that actually meant something. It wasn't like, get the fuck out of here. It was that there was definite departing words of wisdom, and this wasn't a departing word of wisdom, but it was definitely something he was drilling into me with these really complex and multi-layered and rhythmically like all this rhythmic counterpoint that was happening in the band. He was just saying, like, wherever you can, try and feel the bigger beat. So all that to say, I was dialed into a much wider note. I wasn't subdividing so much. I wasn't where's this groove right here? I wasn't on the eighth note. I'm not sure I was even on the quarter note. I might have been on the half note. Maybe parts of my body were subdividing. Maybe there was a shoulder movement or a head movement that was dividing the quarter note, but the beat I was trying to hear was the half note, the wider, the longer, the bigger picture thing. That's what Andy really taught me, especially with that complicated music. Here we are with like 4 chords and the easiest groove in 4, but it's amazing how that still applies. And when I uncover a defect in my playing, like the time when we started working on this idea with the major chords moving in minor thirds, that's kind of what I go to. I've been collecting a series of solutions throughout my career. I think that's what it's always been. I write a lot of them down. Some of them are musical notation that I put in manuscript paper. Some of them are Some of them are just in my notebook. I've got these time and sound notebooks that I have made to match the hat. You can get all this merch, by the way, linked below. Shameless plug. Got these time and sound ring binder notebooks. I carry this wherever. This is always in the front of the gig bag, so I can write notes down. And if there's a tune I'm playing and it wasn't really going that well one night, I'll go in the dressing room after the gig and write a little note down and say, okay, work on your time in the bridge of the Bud Powell tune or something. I'm just thinking about playing with Steve Smith recently. There was something in London that wasn't working on the first set. I went in the dressing room after the first set, wrote a little note down, like, work on your time for the Bud Powell tune in the bridge, because that was not working. But I've just been collecting a bunch of solutions like that, and sometimes it's like Andy said, like, think about and try and feel the bigger picture. Take a macro view, not a micro view. If you're trying to subdivide eighth notes or 16th notes and your foot's going da 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 da, there's no room to breathe, and there's no room to feel out, like to truly feel out the subdivisions with your playing. If you're already feeling out all the micro subdivisions with your body, I think the playing gets a little bit left behind. That's my experience anyway. This is all, of course, anecdotal, but it's something you might want to think about if you're having issues with your time. Or if you're questioning the grid, or how well glued to your grid you are, and how to improve that. This is how I improve mine. Let's give it another few seconds. Apparently I'm not using the footstool, that just collapsed. Okay, let's give it another 30 seconds or something, and we'll close out with this idea. And then I'll actually close with a thought. Let's do that. Let's play a little bit and I'll close with a thought. Helps if the volume pedal's all the way down. And I'm going to try and mess around with it and lag the time a little bit just to find where my limits are. Apparently my limits are pretty restrictive right now. Okay, so that's what I'm going to go work on, actually. That's a great way to find out what I need to spend the rest of my day doing. My final thoughts are, of course, to recap the fact that the Bass Bash is coming up. I'm really excited about this. I think I'm also kind of excited. I'm hoping to get a video person there. We'll capture some of it on video. Me and Ian will perhaps make some nice promo stuff. Maybe we will be able to start doing this kind of thing with Ian and myself, kind of weekend trips around the world. It would be really nice to do. So I can't tour for months on end anymore. I can't like put some grand clinic tour together for 6 weeks and go all over the world. But I am starting to think that it would be possible to do a Thursday through Monday or something and manage to fit 3 cities in wherever you might be in the world, near or far. Ian isn't that close to me, but we're both in the US. It's not difficult to meet up and roll out. Perhaps we could add a third person to that lineup. I've been thinking about that in a big way. Maybe someone like a Henrik Linder or a Gary Willis, or someone who has something cool to say and I think would benefit the audience. That's kind of what's percolating away in the back of my mind. It would be nice to do some of that stuff in the future. This is all, and maybe it's a total disaster. I don't think it's going to be a disaster at all. I'm really looking forward to it. But based upon the success of our little adventure to Germany and the UK in 10 days' time, maybe we'll be able to do some more of this stuff in the future. Let's put the German flag right here. This is our emoji of the day. German flag right here. Put it in your comment or your question. I promise I will heart the comment. I'll read it. And if you have a question, I'll answer it within 48 hours of this video going live. Links for everything are below. The books, even the little Time and Sound notebook, the hats, the shirts, the 251. This is a really good one, actually, for if you want to get into, dig deeper into some of these ideas. There's just a ton of ideas that you could use over the Harmony workout. It's all linked below. Really appreciate you sticking around and spending some of your insanely precious time with me. For all you Brits, I'll see you in 10 days. For all your Germans, I'll see you even sooner. And for all you lovely people that continue to stick around and listen to the podcast, I'll speak to you very soon.